Hi, my name's John. Welcome to the third part in a series all about Bob repairing DTI cages. Anyway, Bob, how are you? Let's have a start, mate.
How are you, John? Nice to meet you again.
Nice to meet you again.
We're following on from that little John Bull that I took the bits last week, or last time. I found it had a major problem, that it had a damaged hairspring. Unfortunately, because I was at Mick's garage or workshop, I didn't have the tool in there to replace it or take the old spring out. So I've actually done that now. So this is how we're going to clean it, how we're going to put the new spring on, and go from there to fully working DTI gauge, what it should be when it came from the shop, like new. This is the John Bull. As I say, we pulled it to bits at over mix. Now my initial thought was that this little spring here, which attaches to what I call the spindle, was actually missing, but it wasn't. What it turned out to be was this hair spring or balance spring, if it was in a clock. I call it a pre-tension spring. As you can see, the state of it in the camera, it's well kafoofed. So, because I was at somebody else's workshop, I didn't have the means and the necessary tools to, I don't know if John can get in the camera, but there's a little pin there, a little pin hole.
That's it, mate, yeah.
I had to punch that out that way, because the pin goes in from that side, so that go out that way because it's a tapered pin. We had to replace that spring. Well, the first thing I had to do was find a spring. Well, obviously I wouldn't have exactly the same match, but I found the one that I can use. But John's camera might be able to pick that up. I don't sneeze because I might lose it. Get all of my fingers. That's actually the pin what will hold the hair spring in, or the balance spring. All what's on the workbench, all these components, they're all want cleaning. Now, for a long time, what I used to use was plastic tubs like these. Now, we used to have 4 of them. I've only brought 2 of them with me, but I used to have 4 of them. And how I used to work was 2 cleaning and 2 wash. So I would have warm soapy water in this one, warm soapy water in that one, then I would have another 2 which would just have clean water in. Now when I say clean water, what I mean by is deionized water or filtered water. In the UK you have what they call soft and hard water areas, and that's where you get lime scale in the water. Plus in the UK we have fluoride put in our water, which can leave staining on your components that you're cleaning, especially if you're really in a bad area for hard water area. So I always use distilled water, but when I was cleaning, used to clean, I used to have 4 brushes like that. It's a big paintbrush, and I've just cut it down so I've got short stuffed bristles, and I had separate ones for each tub, because you didn't want to transfer the muck from that one into that one, then into that one, into that one. If you imagine you've got four in a line. Then it was a case of drying the components. So you can either use a hairdryer, not a heat gun. A heat gun can be too hot, or as I say, I just use a hairdryer on low setting, or you can use one of these puff balls or blower or lens cleaner for a camera or whatever you call them. Now Mick got us this from the engineering show. It was like £3, and that's more than enough to blow the excess water off your small components. Now on average it takes me 4 hours to strip, clean, check, clean again and reassemble the DTI. Now we have got 4 hours. Right. So what this is here is an ultrasonic tank. So the timer on this thing, it runs only for 6 minutes at a go. Now the way I put the components in is the small bits in first. I'm just going to chuck them in. And just spindle. It's out of the way. And that'll be coping nicely. Then it'll run for as long as it takes. Now this is what I call my first initial clean, which removes, I don't know if you remember from the last video, somebody had gone daft with an oil can and it was just overly excessively oiled. So what I'm doing here is try to remove as much of the oil as possible and any loose dirt. Then I'm going to get my cleaning products on the go to give it what I call the deep clean. Now you don't need an ultrasonic tank, you just need patience and use plastic tubs, run mild, washing up liquid, whatever you want to use. Whatever you do, don't use your kitchen sink. It's got a plug hole. Now you've seen some of the small components that's on the bench. You drop one of them down the plug hole, it's gone forever. You'll not find it. I've tried and approached various companies that make DTIs to obtain spare parts such as screws, such as lenses, such as hands, and the majority, well, I've never ever gotten a yes. It's always come back where you're not recognised for repairing them. I've even had a really nasty email off one particular company, I won't mention the name. If I bring their product into how can I put it, a bad light, they will take legal proceedings against us, and I'm thinking, well, all I want is to replace a lens that you'll have in your stores by the hundreds, and you're being really nasty. So I used to like that particular company, I don't like it now. While them other components is in the tank cleaning, we'll go to clean these, the two plates that actually holds the components together, or the parts. Now again I'm using it's a stiff brush, don't know where it come from, I think it got it from the boot sale somewhere. A bit of, oh no, I'm out of camera. Put a bit of, that's what I like the paste type of metal cleaner for, because it sticks to the brush. And basically, just give it a good scrubbing. And again, the more you do it, the cleaner it'll become. Just like cleaning the lens, you've got to work on it. There's no shortcut. If it's not clean, and it doesn't matter how many times you take the bits and clean it, if these is not clean and the pivot where I call these pivot holes, if they're not clean, then the moment's just going to jam up and you're back to square one again. So yes, your hands get a bit dirty, but you can always wash your hands. It's not hard. And again, sometimes it might be a bit too crusty or a bit too dirty for just the metal cleaner on its own. So I use these. Now I know them as fibre pens, because you can get them when they've got a fiberglass insert, and you can use them for, but this one's got a stainless steel insert, and basically you just give it a good scrubbing. no right way or wrong way to do it. All you're trying to do is remove the oxidisation what's on it, and as you can see there, I've just pushed that bush out. It's not a problem, so I'll fix that.
So they're little brass bushes, little pivot bushes.
Yep, yep.
So when people get on about dual movements,
Yep.
are they not little brass bushes on a dual movement?
Yes. Well, the thing is with the dual movement is it'll have a little brass bush, or it'll just have. Say this is cast zinc. It's not aluminium. It's cast zinc, and the crap really. You'll have a brass bush like that, and it'll have the dual movement mounted in.
Right. Okay.
Right.
That's like a little bearing.
A little bearing, right? Now, not in a zinc case. Very rare you find them in a zinc, like the ruby. It's a ruby actually, mounted in a zinc case. You'll always find it mounted into a bush, then into the case. But if this was a brass plated clock, you'll find the ruby sometimes directly mounted straight into the brass plate.
That's a better quality.
Well, there's two schools of thoughts. Until they started mass producing ruby, because it's an artificial diamond. I mean, you can't get proper rubies, but the rubies they use for into clocks and DTIs and your wristwatches, it's grown artificially in laboratories. And so until they perfected that, most of your DTIs just came with just normal brass bushes. Now, I don't like these zinc case things, because I don't know if you remember when I took it to bits, it was extremely hard to take apart. Because what happens with the zinc, it expands as it corrodes. And as I say, like that bush, it just dropped out basically because it's corroded, and it's just lost all hope of holding the bush into place. You can imagine that's a gear wheel or cog or spot or whatever you want to call it, and it's in between two pivots, in between the two plates. So there's a bottom pivot and a top pivot, and it rotates. Get my fingers out of the way. Now what happens is, especially on these ones here, is the zinc expands, if you want to call it. It twists, so no longer is it running straight. It's not running parallel. So what that causes then is it starts to take teeth off, because the teeth is not meshing properly, and then jamming. Now what I've had to do in the past, I've had to leave the hole there alone, but I've had to modify that hole. I've had to make a bush off centre, so that hole's no longer in centre, so it's running directly into the bottom pivot. But it's always this top one, because it's not very well supported, and it's very, very thin. I don't get it on the brass ones, because normally the brass ones, that bit's a separate piece in any case.
So you're actually making an offset bush?
Ah, yeah, offset bush. So I've got a little unimat lathe, and I make my own bushes. But they're only a push fit. There's nothing technical about them really. I'll be up.
Back in the shop,
Yeah. It just goes in, just a push fit like that. That's all it is. Now I know as soon as I go and put it in that tank, that bush will drop out, so I'll just shove it out and I'll sort it out later. But once you've gone daft with the brush and the cleaner, as I say, the more you work at it, I mean, I must admit, what had happened was that we took this one to bits last time we did the video, and I took it home and I actually repaired it. and John phoned me up and says, well, carry on. I'm thinking, well, no, can it? Because I've repaired it. I put it all back together again. So I had to take it all to bits. This clock, when it's finished, is actually going to be given to John for one of his Sunday nightcaps giveaways. So they've been initially in the cleaning tank. and they've had 6 minutes of cooking at gas mark 6. Now what I do is I give them a clean with metal polish. Again, same brushes I used on the other ones. I'll move them out the way on the other casings, and
so it is a very, very labour intensive process.
Yep, very labour intensive. As I say, on average, I'm not going to go daft, but on average it takes me 4 hours to do a gauge, because one, I've got to clean it like I'm doing.
You obviously must enjoy doing it though.
Why? Because like, what happened was, as you know, I had a bad motorcycle accident, and I started making model engines just to keep myself busy. But then I got a job as a machinist cum tool maker, and when you've been standing at the lathe or the milling machine all day, the last thing you want to do when you come home is stand at the lathe or milling machine making the engine. Now, I still make my engines, but
this is why I don't work on cars on the night anymore.
it's oh, do I really have to do that? You know what I mean? I can take it or leave it. Well, I really, really enjoy repairing the DTIs, because it's totally different what I've done during the day, and it's totally different from me making the engines. I've got a few engines on the go, but as I say, if you spend 8 hours, it's a bit difficult, as I say, because I'm used to working directly in front of me, and I'm trying to work towards the camera. But I hope you get the gist of what I'm doing. Again, it's like everything else. The more you do, the better. The more cleaning you do, the better it is, and all that sort of stuff. Now, the spindle, or the plunger, or the rod, or the rack, whatever you want to call it. 2 schools of thought. People say, oh no, all I do, because I've got polish on my fingers, is just rub it. I don't polish it with a cloth, I just rub it. There's enough on my fingers just to clean, because that runs in the bearing surface. If you take it too much off, you're going to make it too slack in the bearing, but also you want to clean. But don't go daft. As I say, there's enough metal polish still on my fingers to clean it.
So that just agitates them around, yeah?
Yep. But you can see the dirt, the polish.
Oh, you can see it all coming off, yeah. It really is coming off.
That's what I call my first stage clean. And all I've done is remove any dirt with a polish. Now what I've got to do, yes, it's in an ultrasonic tank, but the polish will have getting in places even with the ultrasonic tank, such as the pivots, inside the sprockets themselves, or the cogs, or the wheels, or the pinions, whatever you want to call them. So then I have to spend some time and clean all them out. I'll replace the fluid in the ultrasonic tank, so it's all clean fluid, then re-clean them again, then check to make sure that they are clean, there's no bits of black stuff left on them and all that sort of stuff. And as I say, normally it takes me 4 hours, but we haven't got 4 hours, so I'm just rushing down of how, what, where and when. And as I say, with a puffer in the holes, up its nose, anywhere there's a hole, so enough pressure comes out of one of them there. But as you remember when I said on the video, if it's got a hole, it goes straight into the movement. There you go. So yeah, you might think it's unimportant having the clamp on, you can get away without using the clamp, but any muck, any dirt is going to go straight into your movement. So bung it up, put a bit of tape over, anything you need to put up so it doesn't go into the movement. As John's just said, he didn't realise how labour intensive it actually is cleaning one of these. And as I say, this is only the first stage. I'm not going to go to the second stage, but what I do is I check each individual one in its place in the unit with the top plate on, to check that there's no excess play on the bushes, and if it needs a bush replacing, then I'll replace the bush. Then as you can see, I check. I haven't got my eyepiece with us, but I'll work away around the gears, or the cogs or wheels, or whatever you want to call them, to make sure that there's no dirt, and check and clean, have a big poke around. Now these, right, these come from your famous fast food restaurants for stirring your coffee. Sharpen it to a point. I mean, yes, if you're in the watch and clock industry, there's proper, I think they call it pith wood or something daft like that. And what you're doing is just making sure what I call the root, or the bottom of the cog, that it's all clean. There's no grime, muck, oil, grease. And you keep going round and round and round and round. Basically, I don't know if you can say that. See how it's got black round there? It's because there's that bush had dropped out and hasn't been through the ultrasonic tank, so it's got polish still in it. Right, so we've cleaned the movement, and we've cleaned the components to go back into the movement. Sorry, big clatter and bang. Now what I've got to do is, this is the hairspring that's got to go